Hey, so I made that little exercise, that meditation, just about letting go of judgment, just a little quick exercise. And I did want to share some more about letting go and forgiveness. You know, so many of the spiritual mystics and writers have different quotes about how the journey is about letting go. Not what we gain, not what we add, but about just peeling back the layers and letting go. And I've talked a lot on this blog about being aware and being present. You know, your presence in the present moment, being the observer, getting beyond the mind and into that quiet space. Even when you're doing things, to be in that space of witnessing, but especially taking time to get out in nature and look up and really connect. And I realized that a big reason that I am where I am and feel what I feel when I do sink into awareness and I do quiet my mind is because of some really deep letting go that I've done. And one of the more profound days of my life, of my journey, was back in 2011, so about 7 years ago. I was on my first trip to Sedona. Well, it wasn't my first trip to Sedona, but it was the first kind of healing trip to Sedona. It was the fall, it was September, and winter was coming again. I was working for the oil company, and I was in so much pain. My right knee was killing me, it was swollen, my back was messed up, my hips, and I had been taking all sorts of ibuprofen and some sulfazine, which is a prescription drug for arthritis. And that stuff just wasn't working anymore. And I was faced with that I didn't think I was going to be able to work anymore. So it became like a survival thing. I had to get really backed into a corner to listen to my heart and go explore some alternative healing that I knew was there for me. And my sister Penny lived out there at the time, and I went out there and I was staying with her, and I met a whole bunch of her friends who all did different things, different healing modalities and energy work and all sorts of things. And I had what's called a radical forgiveness session. And an RF session is it's fairly long, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how much stuff you're going to work through. It's with a person who's trained in radical forgiveness, which is a process, a method of emotional clearing that is based on a book written by a man named Colin Tipping. He wrote it quite a while ago now, and he developed these methods and then trained people to be facilitators in radical forgiveness and to be able to have sessions with people, individual sessions and group sessions. And so I met someone that did that, who's now like one of my best friends, and I had this session, and there was a lot to it, and I don't know that I can fully explain it and keep it really short. Certainly there's the use of guided meditation, and I guess what a therapist would call like a first-person empty chair dialogue, where you're choosing to imagine that different people, one at a time, or even an institution or an idea or a philosophy, anything you know you're holding resentment, bitterness, whatever, that you need to have some forgiveness around, they're in the chair. and you're talking to them a couple different, maybe 2, 3 different times in the course of the session. The first time you're just expressing yourself, venting, uncensored, complete open heart, talking, yelling, shouting, cursing, screaming, sobbing, whatever, just letting it out. And this is more guided meditation and sort of an offer to reframe it a little and see if there's anything that you may have learned or an opportunity for growth. Certainly the opportunity for forgiveness, obviously, which is a huge growth. But often when you look at things that we feel like happened to us, that we maybe felt like we were a victim of, there almost always is things that we learned from it and maybe ways we got stronger. Not always. I'm not saying that, but there's always a different perspective you can have, and so it's a little shifting of that, and then some more talking and honoring what ways that may have helped you, and then some more meditation, and then it kind of brings it all the way around in a paradigm shift, if you're open to it, to that everything is happening for you and not to you. And allowing that shift in perspective is a huge thing, which can actually shift you all the way from anger to gratitude. It's forgiveness, including this type of work, or forgiveness in general, is not about excusing or accepting what someone has done, saying that it's okay. It's not at all. It's just forgiving them, it, whatever, for its effect on you. It's not condoning it. It's just letting go and forgiving, saying, I forgive you. So it's a powerful, and that is like the Reader's Digest, probably somewhat inaccurate version of what that session was like. I'm not a radical forgiveness trained person, but I had this session, and we're having it in my sister Penny's healing room in her house then on Oak Creek in Sedona. Incredibly beautiful spot. She had a sign down by the creek, and people could come up and basically schedule sessions, readings, and she did energy work and massage and stuff. Right there is a huge glass wall facing Cathedral Rock. There actually were a couple people out in the yard waiting toward the end of my session, and so I think I probably didn't really let myself feel things as fully as I was really feeling them, as they wanted to be felt at the time. So session wrapped up, and and maybe if I'm honest, I was a little smitten with this person. We ended up having a relationship for a while. May have contributed to me holding back a little, but it didn't matter. The work had been done and the energy had begun to shift, and the next morning I went for a walk, as was my habit, along the creek. And I thought of my daughter, who's back in Massachusetts. I'd only been gone for maybe a week, but she was much younger, early teens at that time, and that was like the emotion that got me in my heart, and I suddenly just had the most profound releasing, would be one way to say it. I just began crying, just sobbing, like uncontrollably, wave after wave of all this sadness and pain, anger, frustration was coming up from things associated with the session yesterday and other things I didn't even remember, just coming up, and I was just letting them go and weeping. And it lasted a while. There was nobody else on the trail. It was fairly early. But it was beautiful. It was epic. I mean, you know what a good cry feels like. Well, this was like years and years of like old stuff, old pain just going. And the amazing thing about the universe, about love with a capital L, is I believe we empty out some space, we make some room, and what flows in is love. And as that sort of started to subside, I felt this river of love just flowing, like sourcing from within me, from outside of me, but within me at the same time. And now I'm crying like tears of joy and of awe. It was so beautiful and so powerful, and I felt love, like tremendous love and gratitude for the very people, and I think an institution and maybe a philosophy that I had put in the chair, in the session the day before. The object of my forgiveness, I felt genuine, like almost like I don't know where this is coming from. It was so powerful and deep. It felt like it was beyond me, that it was more love, more than like I had ever produced around anything before. And it just kept coming, and I just kept walking and crying, and I felt all this joy and bliss. And I saw in that space, I suddenly saw like the whole width and breadth of my life. Like all the past, all up to that point. It's hard to explain, but like I saw and felt all of it. And all I could see was the perfection of all of it. All like judgment was gone, all sense of right and wrong, all sense of there was no victimhood for me, and honestly for anyone else. Like from that state, from that place of just love that's coming and going at the same time. It's coming in, it's going out. It's just, when you become love, when enough of you is out of the way, and enough, when you have a wide open heart and there's nothing to block it, and you just connect with love that deeply, all you see is perfection. And I know that can be a hard thing to hear, like there's nothing, love, in a love space, there's nothing wrong in the world. Yes and no. I'm not sure how to explain it, but clearly we can connect to an intelligence that is far greater than we are. And what had happened to me the day before, where I was able to see and honor the opportunities for growth in everything, I guess it's kind of like that, except a million times greater. There can be purpose in everything, and there can be growth and healing in everything. And so, from that day, I think for the next few days, I was just kind of like a wet noodle emotionally, just super open and kind of raw, feeling everything, adjusting, tuning, I think, to a much different frequency. And obviously, like, forgiveness isn't something you do once. It's often something you do over and over again. But I have to say that from that day, that space of love was accessible. When I would quiet my mind, when I would get still, when I would meditate, or kind of meditate while I was walking, or just, there was no more stress or tension in the stillness. I mean, from time to time, obviously, I've had stress, and I've had tension, I've had anger, I've had all sorts of things come up. This was 7 years ago. But the stillness is different now. And I've grown that what I'm describing has only gotten better and better and greater. I've also fostered it a lot. I've spent a lot of time alone. I've spent a lot of time. It's probably too much. I'm realizing now a little too much time. It's time to spend more time with people, which is maybe why I'm making these videos and wanting to help people and coach people and do workshops and retreats and write. But I did, from that time on, I spent a lot of time in that space and cultivated my relationship with stillness and with silence and with love with a capital L. See, to me, there's a difference between feeling loved and feeling love. And I love feeling loved, because we're not all constantly connected in this reality to love. We absolutely need to feel loved. We need to love others, and we need to feel loved. It's awesome, and I am blessed to have felt so much love from so many people in my life. I mean, really profound, unconditional love that I've received. And it's fantastic. But to me, there's a difference between feeling loved by another person and feeling love as like a vibrational state of being. Feeling loved, feeling appreciated and supported, and knowing someone has gratitude for you and all that is fantastic. Being connected to love is it's something altogether different, because whereas when we feel loved, obviously we feel it inside of us, but it's, there's that you're feeling it, it's being mirrored to you from someone else, and it warms your heart, and you feel it sort of coming in. The space that I'm talking about is one where it's both coming in, and not from a person, just from everything around you, but it's like sourcing also from within you and pouring outward at the same time. It's coming and going. It's just, it becomes all that you're aware of. And all you want to do is share it. All you want is for the people you care about to experience what you're experiencing. The moment is so blissful, you never want it to end. It's full of possibility and warmth and joy. So, if you're either nodding your head like, yep, I've been there, or I've caught glimpses of that, or I'm there all the time, or you're like, I really have no idea what he's talking about, or I think I know, but I'm not sure, I'd like to know, I would highly suggest looking at forgiveness work Really. I mean, obviously there's tons of books out there you can read and tons of meditations and exercises you could find online. And I would certainly be happy to talk with you. But I have to say, if you want to experience what I experienced, maybe you want to contact me so I can put you in contact with the person that I had that session with. Which you could do over the phone, over Skype or video, Facebook video, whatever, or in person. Some things are worth taking a trip for. Anyway, I just really wanted to share that. You can change what the quiet moments are like for you. If they're not the most awesome thing, if they're not your sanctuary, if they're not your rest, a rest for your soul and a rejuvenation for your heart, if there's other things simmering around, give yourself the gift of changing that. It's right there. It's right there underneath our stuff. It was right there underneath my stuff. It's like a faucet, and the only thing that keeps that faucet closed is our own resistance, our own negative emotions, our own stored stuff that we haven't released. And when we release it, and we open ourselves up, love is just going to pour in. It's your natural state of being. Joy, wonder, imagination. Again, I've mentioned this many times on these videos, look at a small child. Even ones that have really tough situations, like they can run outside. I mean a young child, like 3 years old, 4 years old, they can run outside, most of them, and just start running around and playing and being happy for no reason. No matter how, even if their situation's kind of tough. It's amazing. That's our natural state of being, though. Connection, love, joy. You don't have to earn it. You don't earn a connection with the divine. It's who you actually are. You're just an extension of it. It's right there. Look, reach out if you'd like to. Facebook, message me, email, make a comment on the blog. If this resonates for you in any way. Have a great weekend. Maybe I'll make another one tomorrow. I don't know. After that, I'm going to be traveling for a few days. So, unless I use my phone, there won't be any videos. Maybe I will. But I'm very excited about a trip I'm taking. See my mom, spend some time, and see the Clydesdales on the Anheuser farm outside of St. Louis. Maybe some foals. Yeah, the ones in the commercials. Very cool. Have a great night. Namaste.